welcome out to Digital Wonderlands. We're trying to figure out how to make that so it didn't sound ethereal, but the metaverse is running around out there, or it will be, or whatever it looks like. I'm Dalton from Rockfine Group, and we've been working with the GBSLEP and BCU to bring a number of events around Internet of Things. We've talked about AI, and today we're going to talk about the metaverse, which kind of ties all of those things together. And right now, fairly ethereal, but we've got some experts to talk about their ideas around where it's going, how you can stake your claim, what it can look like. But first off, I would like to welcome David Tomlin, who's the creative head of the GBSLEP, to tell us a little bit about why we're here and also what you can expect from today. David, over to you.
Thanks, BD. I just want to say, on behalf of the GBSLEP Growth Hub and Birmingham City University and our delivery partners, Rockfine, a warm welcome. I think that, again, this series of events that we've put on cover really quite incredible subjects. And I know we've got some fantastic speakers today who will make this accessible for you and understandable for you. And I think our aim is to try and create a spark of imagination within the business community and an understanding about how they can then take those ideas forward. And the Growth Hub is there to support you in that ambition. And I'll certainly come back to that later. But enough from me. I just want to pass you back to BD and our wonderful panel. Please enjoy this event. Thank you.
Perfect. We're very lucky today to have three distinguished panelists. We're going to start off. Tim's unmuted right now, so Tim, left over to you. You're actually VR entrepreneur and very much in the creative space. So over to you, Tim, to give us a little bit of your background and what's taken you into the metaverse early days.
No problem. Thanks, BD, and good afternoon, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. So I feel like I'm probably older. I feel like I've aged a bit when I look at the metaverse. So I remember Second Life, which was, I suppose, that IBM's first stab at the metaverse many years ago. Since then, I've actually been involved in setting up, I've worked with universities to set up institutes around technology, looking at virtual worlds, looking at games-based learning. I've spun out my own companies. I've developed my own studios that have built very interactive, engaging forms of games-based learning. And virtual worlds have been a big part of that over the years. Of course, the exciting thing for me is, we were early adopters. My company were early adopters of virtual reality when the first headsets came out, probably 6 years ago, maybe a bit longer, but it was around about then. And when VR was expensive, when you had to have a decent VR headset wired into a PC, you had to have a PC with a decent graphics card, and it was expensive, and it was a big barrier to entry. What's exciting now for me is the metaverse is, you have to sort of take some recognition of Facebook's investment in this, but the Oculus Quest 2 being a standalone device where you can actually start accessing virtual worlds, different networks, I think is very exciting. So actually the time has probably caught up, and instead of actually trying to persuade people what a virtual world would be, why you want to get involved in this, the door is already open. So now is a perfect time to actually start exploring benefits and opportunities to business. There were a lot of lessons, and we can go into it later on in the discussion about why Second Life failed. And I think it's important that the metaverse look at that, because there was some very interesting areas on that I think, around the regulation side and the usability and who was using it for what, which we need to consider. But overall, I think it's a great time to be involved. So it's a pleasure to be here, and look forward to joining the debate.
Perfect. It'll be good. Thank you. And Second Life, I was watching a program the other day, and he's all over coming back in and bringing Second Life back.
Oh, right.
Reviving, giving Second Life its third life.
Third life.
So he's looking at bringing it in. So it'll be really good. Next up, we have Michael Quintana, one of our friends and very good people when it comes to technology, innovation, and where things are going. Recently with Sony Hawkeye Innovations. But over to you, Michael, to tell us a little bit of your background and why you're on the program.
Yeah. No, thanks for having me. Again, I'm really glad to be here. So obviously my name is Michael Quintana. Recently was at Sony in their, in the Sony Sports business division, I was the director of next gen engagement, looking at new opportunities where technology can kind of come in and create these really entertaining opportunities or really entertaining products. So my background with the, I'd say metaverse because obviously I've been in the VR space for quite some years now. So VR, AR, but primarily VR, immersive technology, way back when it was still kind of cardboard and before Vive was even getting off the ground. Really excited to kind of show you and talk about some of the opportunities now. I think we're in a very exciting, interesting space right now where we're kind of pioneers, similar to how we were back in the 90s when .com was first starting to come out and people are trying to figure out, oh, what can we do with this? And let me try this crazy thing. Let me try this safe bet. And just getting to see what the opportunities are. So really looking forward to kind of digging in, seeing how metaverse and some of the other buzzwords can actually apply and create opportunities for small and medium businesses.
Perfect. Thank you, Michael. And last but not least, programming since he was, I think you said 8 years old last time, and selling stuff online. Javier Miranda. So tell us from Studio Victoria, tell us about your interactions with the current metaverse, AR, VR, XR world.
Yeah, so as you say, I've always been a programmer, so I come to it from the software development perspective and the 3D modeling background as well. So very exciting that now the metaverse is fully fledged, we can interact with it and we can use it to provide new experiences to people. Yeah, and we'll cover some really exciting topics. We'll show how small, medium businesses can take advantage of it. And it's not just the experience, it's also the digital economy behind it. So blockchain and all this kind of thing, it also comes into play, which we can cover as well.
So I'm gonna throw the first softball up to you, the first lob pass. So Javier, the differences between XR, AR, and VR. And we're not trying to teach Granny to suck eggs here, but I want to get us on a level playing field for the first 5 minutes. Yeah. Some of you have heard all this stuff before, and this is your thing, but other people, I mean, David still puts on his goggles backwards whenever we're doing VR. So I just wanted to make sure that we're all lining up. Sorry, David, didn't mean to embarrass you, but so I just want to make sure we're all on a level playing field here before we move into NFTs, FTs, all this type of stuff. I want to make sure, let's set out the ground rules here. So VR, AR, XR, we'll go that. And you can even throw in MR if you want to throw in whatever you want to.
Yeah. So for me, extended reality encompasses everything, both virtual reality, augmented reality, and mixed reality. Then you have virtual reality, which are digital worlds that are persistent even when you're not using them. Then you have augmented reality, which requires you to have a device to make use of new capabilities when you're looking through the lens of your mobile device. So, you could pull up information. I can't remember the name of the Google app that used to do this. Was it Google Lens, like 5-10 years ago, something like that? I can't remember how Google called it, but you basically walk around the city. Sorry?
Google Glass, I think is the one.
I think that's the one, yeah. So, you need your mobile device. And then you have mixed reality, where it's the combination of AR and VR, and it makes it more seamless, the transition. And an example of this is Microsoft's HoloLens, which is pretty cool. It's still very early days with HoloLens, but has a lot of potential. So that to me is the difference between them. I'm not sure.
That's good. No, it's really good. And Michael, I'm gonna lob the next softball to you. Is why is it becoming so much more accessible now? Tim kind of alluded to it with the Oculus Quest 2, but this is one of the reasons we're getting into a good space, but it's also a hindrance. So why are we getting there now, and kind of what's getting in the way when it comes to wearables and things like that?
Yeah, so it's been around for a while, but we're really starting to get into it now because of that low barrier to entry. So like Tim was saying before, when VR was first being announced, there was kind of two things. There was phone-based VR, where you can put your phone inside a cardboard headset, and even though it was quite magical, it literally was just your phone in a piece of cardboard. And then there is kind of the high-end 6DoF, which is the like full depth of field. Your hands are present, you can lean in and lean out, but that required a pretty beast of a machine, a gaming machine, a PC, and which again, barrier to entry, because you're looking at about 2,000 pounds for that, and then you're looking at another 1,100 pounds at one point for for the headset itself. So now it's exciting. I think it's a bit of a what do you call it? A bit of a perfect storm, because we have that barrier of entry coming down with things like the Oculus Quest. There's the Pico Neo. There's all these headsets basically that are self-contained. So all the computing is done inside. You don't need a machine, but you can plug them into a machine, which gives you the best of both worlds. If you have a machine, great. If not, you still can do some cool stuff. You have low barrier of entry, and then you have which we'll go into further, things like, kind of blockchain, and, we're wanting deeper experiences. We're wanting to have presence and do all these cool things. We're wanting to exchange digital assets. And then I'm going to lose my train of thought. And then we have, so barrier of entry and the, kind of our need and our hunger for these deeper, more immersive experiences is really bringing it all together. And then on top of that, where the mobile phone industry, the computing industry, is somewhat stagnated. So it's a perfect time where we're thinking, what's the next thing? How can we do a little bit more? And, people are used to VR now. It's not a buzzword anymore. So we're now kind of taking that culture a bit further and saying, let's do something cooler, something more immersive. And people are kind of ready for that, which is also important. Oh, you're on mute.
Yeah, got it. I'm on mute. There it is. I had to do the typical. We've only been doing this for two and a half years, so it's good. So Tim, now your lob is okay. We've talked about lots of stuff. We've now put the term on it, metaverse. And I know there's all sorts of things, and it'll probably change its name. But what do we feel like? What's the metaverse look like, and feel like that from your point of view?
I mean, I think the metaverse is interesting because it's not just one world, is there? It's a network of 3D virtual. This is the overall name we're giving this network, because whilst Facebook have got their own world's platform, you've got Epic Games bringing out their own, I think it's called Roblox or something like that. I had to go with that, and that was interesting around. I think they do you can go to a concert virtually, So, and I think I'm equally excited about the metaverse when you've got this network of virtual worlds all focused on this social connection. Companies which are going to be far more engaged in a social network now than they ever were going back 5-6 years because of COVID, because we've got used to adopting technology in a way that we can join meetings remotely, because it's going to be more engaging and exciting than just a screen, because we can have areas in the metaverse that aren't pure games. There can be very educational elements of the metaverse. There can be elements around mental health and well-being. There can be entertainment that you can go and you could use a metaverse to hold meetings, put on events, put on exhibitions. A car company could launch a vehicle. So, actually looking at these different types of virtual worlds and the networks around them, I think offer tremendous opportunity. And it will be very interesting. Maybe it's a bit like the old wars, just which companies and which the worlds that survive, because they're all going to be after content. Content's going to be king of this. There's going to be several platforms coming out, but who's going to be able to host the content that people want to use it for, want to see? So I think we're just starting that period now. It's going to be very, very interesting to see how that develops.
Perfect. And we talked that this is about staking your claim in the metaverse. And what we're talking about today is that kind of the original thought process. Obviously, we're not on the bleeding edge anymore. We're kind of moving towards the cutting edge. So Maman, could you run the polls for us? Could we just start off with the first of the polls? And I don't want to teach Granny to suck eggs, but so here's your first one. So marketing in the metaverse is supposed to surpass by 2025 $100 billion, $500 billion, or $800 billion. Marketing, this is signposting, product placement, all this type of stuff in the metaverse. That includes video games, that includes anything through your lens, Snapchat, all that type of stuff. And this is a Reuters poll. So this is where I got it from. So if we share the results there, look at it is 800 billion is what Reuters is putting out there. So good call, Miles. Yeah, we had a winner there. That was good. But 800 billion, it's amazing to think you're buying a virtual billboard behind a pair of goggles. Maman, can we have the second poll, please? Because Tim started to try to steal my thunder. So the digital game currency Roblox now became worth more or less than a Russian ruble last week.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I think we know where that one's going.
Correct. And I think it's kind of it's now 2 Russian rubles for Roblox. So
yeah, unfortunately,
my kids can go buy some stuff in Russia right now because they've been playing Roblox. And if you haven't played that it's actually as a share or an investment, Roblox is actually doing very, very well as an actual share itself. So it's very interesting to see that becoming part of what we will get to as the metaverse. So, Maman, can we run the next one? And Tim alluded to this one when he was talking. So, how many people attended the Travis Scott concert on Fortnite? And this was over essentially a 12-hour period. So, on Xbox, on PlayStation, on all this stuff, not mainly behind virtual reality or anything else at this point in time. So there it is. It was actually 45 million people attended on Fortnite. So they came and watched Travis Scott. I think he made 7 million in 3 minutes or whatever it was. So I went and watched it just because I wanted to see what the heck it was all about. But 45 million people attended a concert online. Now, one of the places that you can have property in the new world is Decentraland, and in the metaverse, it has sold how much land and virtual assets using NFTs, which we'll talk about. Here we go. So people are putting their stuff in. So if we share that poll, so Decentraland has actually sold $25 million worth of NFTs. So totaling 125,000 NFTs sold. So they've sold plots of land in virtual reality. So people are buying house plots in virtual reality. And like Tim said, as we look at Second Life and things like that, how do they know the Decentraland is going to be the place to buy property? What happens if that's going to be the Atlantis of the metaverse? What happens if it's underwater or disappears in the future? And we'll get into some of the policing and ethics and things that we talked about, which is what Tim alluded to with things that were happening in the metaverse and how do we police it? Because that becomes an ethereal thing, but it's also, if you're going to start spending money on NFTs and non-fungible tokens and pieces of art and land, how do you know that they really exist? That's how do we really know that all comes about? So I want to move into the first one, and I'll start off with Tim since we went backwards here. What's somebody or a company or an individual group, small company, large company, that's doing really well in the metaverse right now outside of games, that's already started to stake their claim in there? I just saw that Coca-Cola sold the first digital NFT of Coca-Cola for $575,000 of the first NFT Coke can. So I mean, it's just like, if Coca-Cola or whoever's mining that, because it was on OpenSea, what are you going to do with that? So it's so really, what are you seeing out there that's metaverse based that you see people having success in?
Two areas I've seen. One is a more operational stuff, and if you look at, if any of us go to even Starbucks now, every time I go to a takeaway restaurant, there's me in the queue, everybody else is Just Eat or Deliveroo, somebody's there getting food to take to somebody else. It seems to be the changing world of the future. We don't go out of the house anymore. And interestingly enough, these companies have got presences in the metaverse. McDonald's, you can go into virtual McDonald's. Even why would I want to do that? Order the food, and then the real food arrives at your door. And it's become a fun way to order food. I mean, I just find that's amazing. So you've got fast food chains really embracing the metaverse, getting their brand recognition, and they're probably buying some of that real estate you spoke about in that previous slide, and really coming up with offers to get people to come to virtual McDonald's if they're not going to go out to real ones. That wouldn't have happened if it hadn't been for COVID. So that's quite clever jump on people's changing activity as a result of the metaverse. But where the other area that I've seen real traction, aside from the sort of catering, is actually in learning and teaching. And I know it's not sexy, it's not as fun, but you think about this, suddenly, when I went to work, when I first got one of my early jobs, you might be given a phone and a laptop. I was on the train recently. It was two ladies from, I think it was a bank, one of the well-known banks in the UK, and she bought a VR headset and a handbag and said, look, our bank's giving me a VR headset now. So we get a laptop, a smartphone, and a VR headset as standard. And they said, what on earth are your bank giving you a VR headset for? And he said, because all our training now is going to be done in the metaverse. All our induction training, our health and safety training, customer service training, diversity training, all the different elements of training the bank has to do. And I think, well, what clever for the bank, because no longer has the bank got to hire rooms, hotels, so it's got to drive people around the country, deliver training. These staff are doing it and they want to do it. They're enjoying it, they're not even questioning it. Again, it's great. I can go over and put my VR headset on and I can do my training in a metaverse. So that at the moment, now, how long that lasts, but at the moment, I think that's a very clever way because it's a real cost saver for the company. It's engaging the learner far more than any other medium. E-learning itself, we know only engages you for a couple of minutes. You know, VR itself, you've got someone's attention for something like 9.5 minutes before they get bored. So you've got, it's quite a clever way of doing it. So if you ask me where the B2B opportunities are at the moment, it's probably more on the teaching and learning side.
That's good. No, really good. Javier, same question over to you. It's a big company, small company. Who's winning in the metaverse right now? In your eyes, if you were to have to back a horse right now, and we gave you an investment pot, and you said these guys are doing metaverse right.
I like Nike, and I like Adidas as well. They released some collections. Nike with Artifact. They sold a lot of NFTs very quickly, virtual trainers and stuff that you can use anywhere else. And Adidas as well, they launched a Classics edition on NFTs and they sold a ton of them as well. Like I believe they made something like $20 million in 3 minutes or something like that, which was wild, you know. So it shows that people really want the customization to use somewhere else. And another good example as well is Ready Player Me, which lets you create that virtual avatar, you know, and use it in multiple platforms, which I think is pretty cool.
How many people on Javier's raise your hand on using your reaction button? Do you have a Ready Player Me avatar? If you have that, just raise your hand or thumbs down if you don't. Because and I'll have Mike talk to that same stuff. Yeah, I have, me too. Yeah, I look so good in virtual reality. I'm dateable. If I wasn't married, I'd be dateable in virtual reality. I'm amazing. But yeah, David will make one for you after this, so it'll be really good. Just let me have the brush. Yeah, we'll turn that. But so we moved into. We'll talk to NFTs and that type of stuff. But Michael, you know the guys over at Artifact. But so talk about. Now I've got this avatar, I've got this Ready Player Me, I'm clothing it up. So what are some of the things that you've seen outside of what the guys were talking about that are successes in the current metaverse?
Yeah, there's a lot of companies going on. There's obviously there's not just the current successes. I think there's the people that are going to be successful. I think that's more where we want to look. And for me, it's people like Roblox, obviously Epic Games with Fortnite, because these guys already have the big audiences. You know, they already have the big following. And I think it's platforms that you're able to not just come on and enjoy content. That's always important, but like YouTube, you can create your own content. And when you start getting platforms that you can create your own content, like Sandbox, for instance, all of a sudden now you're building this virtual, landscape, this virtual world. People like Artifact with so the NFT drops, all that kind of stuff. I love it. Don't get me wrong. I could go into that sort of thing, forever, and pop culture and how all that links in. But I think the value of NFTs and whatnot is gonna, for as much as that stuff is really, really cool and definitely has its place. I think there's gonna be some really cool stuff in NFTs as digital assets that you use to actually unlock other experiences. So, prime example, you go onto one platform, let's say Roblox. Whether you're in a headset or whether you're on a computer or on your phone, they do a partnership with Nike. You get hold of one of their Nike trainers, one of their Nike shoes, and it allows you to do something in one of the Roblox games that sits in there. But then you can come off of the Roblox platform, and this is where we're getting to the true value of Metaverse. We're taking that and saying, hey, can I take that and go to Nike's platform, or even something unrelated? Can I take that shoe, that virtual asset, and go to some other digital entertainment platform and actually use that to unlock really cool stuff, really cool experiences? Then we're going to start seeing what the metaverse truly is. It's not just I'm on Joe Blow's platform, I'm on John Smith's platform. It's linking all those things together. And VR chat, especially from a small business angle, guys, just to wind this back real quickly to small and medium businesses. If you kind of want to get a really good idea of what Metaverse is going to be, it's almost like the early YouTube days, go to an application. You could do it on Oculus Quest, and you could do it on PC VR as well, and actually other VR. Go to VR chat, because there you can go to virtual clubs. I mean, I've jammed it out during lockdown. You can go to there's video game experiences of all sorts. There's teaching experiences. There's everything, educational stuff, everything in this one place, because you can make your own stuff along with with participate. So those are some of the ones on my radar. And again, yeah, Artifact and Ready Player Me and all these guys are serving the right needs and doing some really cool stuff.
So we're talking about this, and one of the things that we have to get to in Metaverse world is common currencies and common translatable currencies. And that's when we start talking about non-fungible tokens and fungible tokens and things that you'll have to look it up. We can, non-fungible token, essentially you've created an asset that's in a bunch of different places that comes together when you've got the right code, and it's worth a certain amount of money, and it's yours because you're attached to that number or attached to that thing. So I can then sell it to Michael, and then he now has to have the code. I've passed it along to him, so then it will decentralize or centralize to him. So it's essentially money coming together in one bank account that's attached to a specific person or specific number. Fungible token, that's probably as generic as I can get, but then fungible tokens can actually have change in value, and they're a little bit more malleable. So, and I like to say it's essentially non-fungible tokens are your senior partner shares, your general partner shares that don't change in value. Fungible tokens can fluctuate like currencies more so than the non-fungible token.
Yeah, I mean, what you said about the change in value. So the NFTs, the non-fungible tokens, can fluctuate too. You actually make a really good point. I won't go on with this too much, but you make a good point. There's so much happening in this space, guys. This is the issue right now. There's a lot happening. There's NFTs, there's NFT art, there's NFT gaming. I'm involved in making an NFT game with a big studio who's about to launch. Go to my LinkedIn if you want to see who they are. There's all this really cool stuff. Crypto. There's the crypto itself. There's the tokens, and then the blockchain as a whole. And which blockchain are you on? Are you on? Are you using Bitcoin, or are you using all the other ones that are out there? Ethereum and all that. And it's just trying to figure out, where do I start? And I think as a small, medium business, that's probably the key thing, is trying to figure out where you can start to dig into things. And things like, hopefully, this event and maybe other resources that we can get out there will kind of help people walk into this space. And the companies and organizations that make that that kind of workflow easy. So right now, you have to figure out accounts and how do I set this up? How do I set that up? So then I could get into crypto and get my NFTs and trade them and blah, blah, blah. The companies and organizations, which I'm working with some now, that actually take that workflow and make it kind of iPhone moment. That's what I call it. iPhone moment, where you're not thinking about, oh, what's all this stuff going on underneath the hood. You just know what's happening when you press this button, or when your mate or your friend or your mom, or you send it to your dad. This is all you do. They got what they need. They could go do some really cool stuff or some really educational stuff. And that's what we're hoping to get to.
And that really comes back to that whole, what's a platform look like? What is this, and how do we have a common language across the metaverse? Because we've got currently in PC world, we've got PCs, we've got Macs, we've got iOS, we've got Google, we've got all these different things that kind of talk to each other, but don't always talk to it. Your document doesn't look the same. So when we start translating money, that's the thing. But the whole thing, and David, and when we talk to people from the GBSLEP and we're working with the Growth Hub, is where you get in is where your potential clients or potential prospects are fishing. So you have to talk to the professionals like Javier and Tim and Mike and some of the other ones to say, okay, well, I want to set up a new demographic. We want to go for 25-year-old gamers. Cool. Now, where are they hanging out? Because you could set up this really cool NFT that's shoe related and doing all this stuff. But if you're going for 55-year-olds that are looking to watch rugby, you're fishing in the wrong pond. So it really comes back to your business plan, your target prospects, before you go start digging into this whole world of metaverse. It's literally, it's like, should I be on Snapchat, Twitter, Facebook, whatever? It depends on what your demographic is. So Javier, you've been working with a lot of different clients. So how do you get them to start thinking about, and you do quite a few augmented reality things, and Tim, I'm coming to you next on VR stuff, but augmented reality stuff, how do you get people to start thinking about their clients, why they would use AR, and then instead of spending a lot of money on a program, how do you get them to realize how they make ROI, return on investment?
Basically, they need to understand their clients very well and what issue they are solving with AR. It's not just using technology for the sake of using technology, is what problem does your customer base have that you're going to solve with the metaverse or augmented reality or all these kind of things. So this customer strategy really is key to the whole thing, because if you don't know what you are solving, people are not going to buy into it. So let's say, for example, that you try to sell to 55-year-olds that watch rugby. What is your augmented reality app going to do to help them? Is it going to be that you go to the stadium, take out the phone, and it tracks statistics automatically for each player, for example? Or, is that going to add any value to their experience at the stadium? Is that kind of thinking process that you need to map out, that we help them map it out on a digital whiteboard, and then they reach the conclusions whether they want to go down one route or another route. And that's basically the process. We teach them how to think about their own customers.
That's really good. And so, Tim, I'm going to come to you because you've built training and online applications and fun ones with cars and vehicles and fun things like that. So when you're talking to your end user, how do you get them to kind of rewind and think about, their clients on the end?
I think, in terms of the method, it is a new platform for many, and a lot of people are thinking, well, where's the value? Why would I use it? What's it going to offer me? And it's often, you've got to get people to dip their toe in it before they actually spend real money on it. I just think a lot of clients will be thinking, well, where's the value add? And I think what I would suggest is start just by experimenting with something simple. I think there was one application I used back in January called Frame. And it was a metaverse platform, allowed me to set up a meeting space free of charge completely. We could get 10 of us. We got 10 developers all to join. We could customize the room. We could create our own. It was PC based, or you could use a VR headset. It was either or. But suddenly you start to give people ideas of where they can use this. Actually, we could use this to host team meetings. We could use it to do a product launch. We could use it as a support base for our clients. We could use it as a repository of content. We could use it as a training hub. And just by actually creating that little room and inviting 10, 15 people to have a go and participate, 20, 30 ideas rattled off as to what that platform could be used for. And I always pinch the idea that Apple did years ago. So the iPad is a prime example of this. This was a product that Jobs pushed through Apple. Nobody wanted. All the pundits said it's a complete waste of money. Don't develop it. Nobody wants it. There's no demand for this product. There's no interest. No one's going to sell it. Jobs said, let's just build it. People have it. They'll find a way to use it. And we've got to almost encourage access. Of course, what happened with the iPad, suddenly people were buying this product. My wife would take it home. She'd be looking at the newspaper on an iPad instead of actually having to go to the shop or log onto a PC. People are finding uses for the technology. The iPad 2 became the fastest selling piece of IT hardware ever in the history of the world because people found a value and a use for that product. And I think we need to do that with the metaverse. Maybe not to the extent of the iPad, but getting people to dip their toe in the water, try something that's free, easy to set up, just experiment, and then you'll see the value. And it's only then you can start persuading clients to think, well, actually, I ought to part with some money now. And now I need to do something that's a bit more advanced. Because if you go in with a hardboard, it's going to cost you X. It's just too early for a lot of organizations. That would be my advice, and that's how we still. Even though I'm, I've run tech companies, I'm still be very cautious of rushing into the new tech without actually seeing what the value add is going to be for my business.
And that makes a lot of sense in anything, because essentially what we're talking about here is staking your claim in a technology. In general, for a small business, it's advertising. So where are you going to advertise, or before you go and build an AR application? I was watching one the other day that's essentially a grocery store. When you're walking around your grocery store, you have your Google Maps to go through the whole thing, and they can advertise as you go along. And then the Japanese store that they were walking around in also had games at the fruit stands, so you actually could, whoever it was, the Chiquita Bananas actually had throw the banana in AR, so you'd swipe up and throw the banana in the basket. So there was advertising that was happening there. There will be some very inventive people that are going along. And I think, Michael, you kind of led into the guys from Utopian Game Lab. If you talk a little bit about, I think it's Time Raiders. I'll probably got that wrong. But if you talk about that for a second, as to where they're thinking about that's going, and also how people can, in a Fortnite style, advertise in space like that, or work with people like Utopian.
Yeah. So I'll get to Utopian Game Lab. The Time Raiders is I'm a bit biased because I'm on the project, obviously. So full disclosure about that. It's a fantastic, metaverse, game. It's based on blockchain, so it's called an NFT game, which means you have the game, you can run around. And actually, there's different ways of doing this, and some people are kind of doing games that are more about the digital assets and just trading those and collecting them, almost like collector cards, and you're trading and doing that. And then you have more and more what's starting to come out, which is like early second generation NFT gaming, this is a full-on game on its own. You run around, whether you have a gun or a tank, doing all this cool stuff, jumping through different different time periods, and you can collect and find NFTs. Basically, you can collect and find things, and those things are NFTs, and you can use them to open up different abilities in the game. You can open up different levels sometimes, or different characters, and do all this really cool stuff. Basically, what you can do in a lot of in modern games today. But the interesting thing is that kind of stuff, you take it with you. You can go from, like, for instance, we could do a partnership again. Let me throw one out there, like Nike. Go through. You have a shoe that makes you run a bit faster in the game, and then you can take that shoe, come out of Time Raiders, and actually go into the Nike store and maybe get like 10% off that shoe as well. All this kind of cool stuff. But what Tim was saying, something that besides just kind of plugging the Time Raider stuff, which definitely, guys, go to my LinkedIn or go to the website, you'll see it, is what Tim was saying is something that I think is really important. And a lot of small businesses, a lot of big businesses actually kind of hit this barrier, is they get really excited and they just dive in. Okay, where can we make money? How can we do this? What's the ROI? I want to put this in. What am I going to get out of it? And actually, what we're forgetting is, don't be too academic about this, about new spaces. You have to be academic and, okay, which demographic does this speak to? Like, I do loads and loads of BBC interviews for the e-scooter and like future transport market. Those kind of people are the kind of people on the cutting edge of tech. They're going to ride e-scooters, blah, blah. Those kind of people are also going to be the ones likely to do stuff in the metaverse. It's going to be a certain demographics. So you're going to want to break that down. What's the what's the breakdown of my demographic that I'm trying to speak to? But once you kind of got that stuff under your wings, you do want to do what Tim said, which is you have to get in and you have to try it. You have to play with it. There's going to be so much stuff that fails. I'm telling you this now. There's going to be a load of stuff that fails. We have a bit of a bubble right now. Everyone's metaverse and NFTs, and it's true. And you have to ride that wave, because that wave starts putting it in the public, in the public psyche of, hey, there's this thing called metaverse, and there's this thing called NFTs, and all this cool stuff. But underneath that, when that pops, the reality is going to be, okay, what's the substance under that? And to get to that substance, already small businesses, even large businesses, need to be doing things like Tim said, which is trying it out. Go into things like VR chat. It's free. VR chat is free. Once you have a headset, VR chat is free. It's a virtual world. The one I was telling you about. You can make stuff. You can try things. You can do all this stuff. It's not just games, but they have that. They have education, everything. And it's when you're in this space, in these spaces, whether virtually with a headset or whether on a computer, once you're there, you start figuring things out. You start feeling things like, oh, wow, maybe this will be a great business case, or maybe my audience or my market would love this, or hey, we could do a product based on this, and this will really, speak to people. So it's all about getting in and trying things and not being afraid to fail and kind of fail forward. A bit of like see the metaverse for the, you know, for the trees. We're all worried about the fine details of what's the ROI, what's this, and actually we need to step back and think, what are the experiences that people want, you know, and then how could this technology, you know, kind of link to that, kind of be a platform for that.
Cool. Tim's thoughts on that, since Mike gave you some ideas or some kudos there. So thoughts around where it's kind of going and some of the other things that you need to do, because people typically have a sales plan, they have a marketing plan, but do they have a technology spend plan? Because this is kind of a technology meets marketing meets sales play here in general. So you kind of have to work it. Do you see a lot of people that actually have money set aside to test this stuff out?
Yeah, I do on tech more so than ever before, which is why it's encouraging, why it's great having this debate now. And you know, the world is changing with these type of platforms. There's no question. You know, Oculus Quest was the fastest piece of hardware. I think in terms of VR, 350% increase, probably because everyone was at home playing games and decided they had to go and buy a VR headset. But you know, I can't express enough. When I started selling VR, I was having to convince people the benefits of VR. You know, this is going to do this isn't it? Well, I remember chatting to Boeing, not interested, can't see any value in this. You know, I went in with AR, I went in with VR, I went in Microsoft HoloLens, I went in with a top of the range HTC Vive headset. We mocked up aircraft maintenance records, so you could go into a virtual aircraft, you could use it for maintenance training. I thought Boeing will love this. I even got up to my office in the Midlands. I've got 4 of the most senior guys from Boeing to come from Bristol. They spent the day with me. This is going back 6-7 years, I have to say. Said, no, it's a fad. Can't see the interest. It's not going to work. No. And we felt, and what we didn't have at the time, they wanted cast iron proof that by investing in this technology, it's going to add more value than what they were doing at the moment. Of course, I hadn't got that. There weren't the academic studies. There wasn't the information about how VR is far more engaging, how learning is quicker, how people are going to learn, the productivity is going to be better because people are going to be able to practice in a more engaging way, how first-person training is better than watching it, actually doing it. You know, all these wonderful studies that have happened since we didn't have. But and of course, you look at Boeing now, you know, when they delivered a Chinook helicopter, the instruction manual is all in VR. It's completely gone that way, you know, so, and which we didn't build, unfortunately, but anyway, by the by. But that shows you that change in 5 years in corporate mindset. And corporates are like big ships. They take a long time to change direction. You know? They need to be given all this information. They need to be, whoever buys your product has got to be 100% convinced there's a value there. And you need to, yeah, the business case is so important. I've had it with a big retailer quite more recently where I've been trying to convince to stick 4 headsets in every 750 stores. It's a big investment. A big investment for a company, but now is the time. So for companies out there looking at this, you know, there are the real benefits. There is the cost savings, both for the client, engagement for the staff, and for developers out there. Undoubtedly, there is the opportunity to exploit the metaverse as an opportunity to generate new business and new areas. So I whilst you hear some headlines, you know, Facebook went in with 11 billion. We've lost 11 billion, didn't they? Spending on the metaverse. I don't say it's loss. I think if I was Facebook, I'd be arguing that's an R&D investment, maybe, rather than a loss, hopefully. But I think when you see these big investments, there is this, the press tend to say, right, that's gone now. That's that over. I don't think it is. And I think we are at the cusp of something that could expand. Yeah, VR is going to get better. There's no question. The Oculus is a jump up already. Is going to be further jumps up. We're seeing this growth. So no, I'm very bullish and very positive about the future with the metaverse, and you know, we're looking. You know, I'm very interested to see what people are doing with the metaverse, which does make the difference and can be the case that is of the future. So we'll see what happens. But no, I agree with everything that the guys have said. It's spot on.
Well, back when I went to I'll go back to you in a second, Mike. But when I went to Monaco in 2015, and they were just starting to extend Monaco. They were dumping big, huge rocks in the middle of the ocean. People were just laughing at them, right? They were just laughing, just big, huge. They were just taking stones, costing them millions, just dumping these stones in. I went back in 2018, right before everything happened, and there's an island there. And that island is worth billions now because they've now extended Monaco to out because they just, so these are those £1 million rocks that people they're gonna be at the bottom of the ocean, but they're the building blocks as to where we're going. But over to you, Mike. Sorry, I didn't mean to take that.
No, it's fine. And I'm so bad lately. I don't know if it's age or what, but I always lose my train of thought. So what I was going to say is you have to, the innovation right now in terms of like small business and spinning things into that direction with metaverses, with immersive tech like VR, AR, with blockchain and NFTs is like was being said, the big companies, and I know I've worked for quite a few of them. I've worked senior roles in those. They take a long time to steer. You might get a company like Facebook who's like, we're going to do this. They have every incentive to do that, to change because of their legacy and history, and they're trying to kind of clear their name a bit. But right now is kind of the time, in my opinion. Right now is the time for the small business, because all of the development for AR, for VR, for immersive technology, immersive experiences, you weren't getting your big studios doing that because they felt like, well, the market's not there. We're a big multi-million-pound studio or multi-million-pound brand. We're not going to pay millions to create an experience, a game, a product in VR or something where the market is smaller. But what happens then is, because of that, a lot of the smaller businesses were doing small studios. Everybody from the guy in his or guy or girl in his garage all the way to 3, 4, 5 man outfits, maybe a little bit bigger. Now, all of a sudden, metaverse, VR, everything's being smashed together in the headlines, and everyone kind of realizes, a little bit of hype train, but because of the hype train, people start looking into it, and they're like, oh, wow, the kind of thing that you would have, like Tim said, he tried to show Boeing, hey, check this out. And I was in the same boat a couple of years ago with some big companies, and they're like, now all of a sudden they're like, oh, yeah, we need this, and you can't base the markets on these big guys. So now what I'm saying is the time of the smaller company who have the opportunity to make this cool stuff. And now these big guys, your Sonys, your Boeings, your Intains, there's loads of big companies that all of a sudden are looking at the small guy now to say, hey, you've been working on this thing for like 8 years, and it was kind of out of the limelight, but now we realize this is a market that's growing, that's blowing up, and we need to start building partnerships and getting products and things in this space. It's the small guys that they're turning to say, hey, can you help us? Can you get us in this space? Can we buy into your technology, or can we invest into your platforms? So the innovation happens at that level. It happens in big companies too, not to knock my employers, it happens there. But a lot of it definitely is kind of seeded and nurtured in the kind of people who are going to be in this, in this call right now. So exciting times, wave that flag and get out there, and don't be afraid to, show people what you're doing.
Perfect. Javier, so, and we're talking now about collaboration, because these people at smaller businesses now need some sort of technology partner, somebody that's going to help them through this journey. Tell them, hey, no, that seems really dumb. Here's another way we could do this. Or, you kind of have to be the don't waste your money sort of people.
Yeah.
But still spend some good money and do it in a good way.
Yeah.
But stair step it or plan it out. So you're doing some stuff in architecture, digital twins, things like that. So collaborating. So people are on the call right now or watching the video afterwards. What should they ask a technology partner, and how do they address a partner like Studio Victoria?
One of the main things is to understand the processes that the technology partner is going to take you through. So they should have a very well-defined customer journey for you. So when you partner up with them, they will tell you through a specification phase. They will explain to you how it's going to be implemented and how it's going to be delivered. That is critical, because what we see a lot of the time, people go with some technology partners just because they've appeared on one media or something, and then they are hit with a huge invoice, and they don't want what they, or they don't need what they was produced in the end because there was a lot of miscommunication. So very clear channels of communication from the beginning, it will be critical in here. And as I say, is mapping everything very well. so you can extract the most value from your technology partner. For example, one of the projects that we are looking into working is creating a stadium on the metaverse for concerts and stuff like that. But the client doesn't really have a well-defined strategy. So we are trying to guide them through how they are going to monetize all this, how they are going to implement the strategy correctly, because they heard metaverse and they said, we need to do it. But it's not just that you need to do it, is, okay, you want to do it. Now, what do you want to obtain from it? And what's going to be your value proposition for this?
One of the things that you and I talked about and that you've delivered, and kind of in the more on the computer, but kind of it fits into the AR VR space, is the stag. So when you walk us through what the kind of barbershop / pub, what you can actually do in it when you walk people around it, and kind of describe what happened there.
There is a very well-known barbershop here in Birmingham. It's called Stack Creative by the Gustav Factory. We are actually working with them in creating their own metaverse experience. So we did the reality capture for the VR experience. And now what we are working with them is embedding all the e-commerce element that they have, from the booking system to the shop, because they also have merchandise and really cool stuff that they sell, or even, beard and hair products and all this stuff. So the plan is the clients will be able to go to the virtual barbershop, book the real haircut or the real beard trim in there, get the products, get everything sorted virtually, and then they just pop into the shop and then get the real experience with it. But we are also looking with them at what else can we do? How else can they benefit? So they also have a small DJ booth. So we are looking at sensory experiences with music, with mood scenes within the VR as well, that we are doing with them. So one of the things is connecting one of the music partners, whether it's Apple Music or Spotify or you name it, plugging that into the virtual reality experience and allowing people to hear what normally plays into the physical barbershop, which I think is a pretty cool idea as well.
And when we talk about that, we've also talked about product placement. So if you have hair care, beard care products, those guys, if they want to be featured on the, if you get enough visitors, just like with anything, they could then promote that and actually pay for spot, just like they would in a grocery store or anything else like that. Or music, if Michael's new band comes out, if he wanted to pay for promotion, because that's his typical user base, he can pay either a promotional fee, run a concert, do his own thing through the Stag. So Stag can generate other revenue streams through this. So it's thinking outside the box, making the computer come into the real space.
And don't forget that you can also tie with Internet of Things as well. So this is where things like Alexa will come into play when you go to the physical shop as well. Several sensors throughout the shop that could give you extended experiences in the virtual world as well. So the possibilities are endless. It's just a matter of having that really concise and specific plan to implement what you want in the different stages, not all in one go, but to have everything in phases as well.
Perfect. Miles, you have a question?
Hi, everybody. So when Tim was speaking about the Boeing situation, that sounds very familiar to me because I used to be an aircraft engineer, so I can kind of see the potential of that. However, this is career change number 3, so I'm not going to go into career change number 2. But basically, my business partner and I are 6 months old, and we run a spice blend company for cooking, baking, and cocktail making. And we're based in Birmingham/London. And I guess, I'm interested in seeing how we can add kind of more value, or add, I suppose, maybe kind of something a bit more fun, or that kind of immersive experience. First of all, I must stress that we're an online business. And
Perfect.
I guess what I'm trying to say is that how could I bring in a bit of augmented reality into my business that's online? But so like you can't really come to our shop, let's say. We don't have a footprint of bricks and mortar. That's kind of that's where I'm kind of getting at.
No,
Right.
perfect. Okay, let's spitball this a little bit. We'll have some fun with this since you showed up. So, Tim, an idea from you, then Mike, then Javier. So just give Miles an idea about how they could take spice into the spice and cooking into the metaverse.
I like it. I mean, I think there's a company I know in Poland that created a VR experience, a VR product called Bartender. And actually, that's all around the world. And if you go to an event, you put the VR headset on, you learn how to mix a drink and how to create a perfect cocktail virtually. But what's clever about it is there's a barman in the next room who actually creates the drink you've just created. And then so at the event, I can put my headset on, I can mix all these drinks together, and then a real drink arrives at the end of the experience. But that bartender, he built it as a bit of a marketing tool, but it picked up in its own right. It became a product that was being sold professional bartenders all over the world, and he made just as much money out of the bartender app than he did out of being a mixologist and going to people's houses and teaching them how to mix cocktails. So in a way, his marketing tool became the virtual him, became more popular than the real him. And I'm not saying it's going to happen to you, but I'm just wondering, can you use this virtual experience to let people experiment with what you do, and use it as almost a fun way, as a marketing tool to engage an audience, that then a real product gets delivered. So it's using that front end with the spice to make it a bit interesting. I'm not sure. I should learn more about your product and whether it can be personalized in any way, shape, or form, I suppose, is going to be the key. But that, when you were talking, a bartender one was the one that struck me in terms of the similar sector.
Perfect. Michael, over to you.
Yeah, similar to what Tim's saying. I think for me, the first thing is kind of knowing your market and your demographic, which you'll know, obviously. So once you know, hey, this is who I market to, they're older people, or they're younger, or they're this side or that side. Once you know who they are, then you can start to apply the tech, which would be, if they're maybe an older market, then they're not going to be maybe as likely to be in certain technology spaces. So maybe you don't want a headset. Maybe you want to go with use like a mobile phone and create some sort of augmented reality app. There's Facebook, I forget their AR. There's Facebook AR basically, and Apple AR, and just finding something unique. Maybe it's using it like a magic window. You hold the phone up, you can see through the camera, and you can see on the table all the different ingredients. Maybe you could do something, whether it's gamified, and you're shooting them or playing with them or moving things around, or maybe and maybe by doing that, they can get like a discount if you're marketing this to your to your clients. Then by gamifying the experience, and if they succeed in that gamification, they get like a discount or they get a free gift. There's those kind of things. But fun, I think anything you can do that can make something fun and interesting. What's cool is that doesn't just speak directly to the people you're marketing at. Maybe it's a bit like Tim was saying before. It can bring in a wider audience who all of a sudden then it becomes aware of your brand. So the big thing is knowing your target demographic, where they sit in terms of the technology use that you want to apply to them, and then coming up with really something interesting. And again, that kind of thing that you're asking, hey, how can we do something really cool and interesting? That speaks to the kind of people that are going to be on this call, to the small studios. You don't need to go to a big game studio. You wouldn't do that, but you go to a small studio, maybe like Javier's, and say, hey, how can we do this, in a kind of a, economical fashion, but how can we do something really cool? And it's people like that are pushing the envelope. And then it's the big companies that are coming in and saying, oh, wow, it's amazing. We want to buy into that. We want to be a part of that.
Cool. Over to you, Javier.
One thing that you could focus on, for example, as a unique selling point, is the traceability for the spices, which is quite a big thing nowadays. People want to know where the spices come from and the origin as well, and whether they are ethical, sustainable, organic, all that kind of stuff. So building on with what Tim and Mike are saying is, you got your AR application, pull up the phone, point at the real product, and it will bring all the information that you can't put in the packaging because there's no physical space to put it on the packaging. and then you really don't want to take them to the website because there's, it's a hassle for them to go to the website. But if they have it on the phone, they just point to the product and you bring all that experience to them, and then tying in with maybe cooking lessons or baking lessons. Like, have you ever considered using cinnamon for baking or for cooking lamb or whatever, that kind of thing? Is making that user experience a lot more unique, and it also depends on brand positioning as well. So if you are targeting the higher end of the market, you want to elevate the user experience as much as possible as well. So all these things help you with brand perception.
So, and the big thing here is when we're talking about technology, smaller companies, startups, things like that, is make sure you're piggybacking on everybody else's technology. So whether it was Michael talking about VR chat or things like that, or most people don't start off selling directly in website. They usually go through Amazon, use Amazon's platform, build up your following, or Facebook groups. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing we're doing here. That's the old web 2.0 gotten to the end, moving towards 3.0. Is just really using other people's spots to leverage your business moving forward, just like you would have done on Amazon or Facebook. Do the same thing in VR chat. Do the same thing through the Oculus. Use Wander is one of the things on Quest 2. You wander around certain spots. You might say have a virtual meetup on Wander, and let's go to where we source our cinnamon. If we go back to Javier's example, so Miles is going to lead you around the fields where we would harvest our fair trade cinnamon, and we're going to go to Ecuador to do that. And so you start off small, see if it works, and then start to implement it. But that's cool. So I'm going to move on to Vicus and Vic, and we're going to. So Vic, if you bring your question in, so hopefully that helped you out, Miles. Over to you, Vic. There he is.
Yeah, hi guys. This is absolutely fascinating, by the way. It's my first real exposure to learning what the Metaverse is about, and really fortunate to be amongst such great companies. So thank you very much. I've got a confession to make. I've got no links to Birmingham at the moment.
It's okay. You'll get there.
Okay, cool. Okay, so I'm quite interested in a specific area, which is sports, and particularly football. So I'd love to hear, any sort of thoughts or experiences that you're aware of that are coming towards the football arena. Maybe even the Premier League. And I think, Michael, if I'm right, you do some stuff with Manchester City, some pretty special stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to hear a bit more on, sort of the football space, if you like. And also a more specific thing, I've got a team of people and we're looking to create a football experience for grassroots footballers. And this is aimed at the 14 million active footballers in the UK, who are part of some organised football leagues and, groups. So we're looking to get a dome where you can get a full-size 3G pitch within the dome, and then we put on a load of tech-powered football challenges using ball shooters, goal sensors, and a collection of different sort of tech-based, accessories. And the players come along, they get a kick score, and they can compare that score to the next time they come, see how they develop, to their friends, to teammates, to professional footballers. But I've been challenged on this. That's a big space that you need to pull that off.
Yeah, especially in the UK.
Exactly. And the challenge has been, well, why not put on a VR set or do something virtual where they get that same sort of experience in a football stadium. But I'm just not sure whether the technology or the sort of the metaverse could assist with that, where you actually get the feeling of kicking a ball into the top corner of the goal.
Well, let's see. Michael's going to take him to Rezel, player 22.
Yeah, I was going to say, I speak to these guys pretty often. So I don't know if you're familiar with, well, first of all, I'll go back to, football is a great space for a number of reasons, first of all. I've worked with the Premier League, Champions League, UEFA, all those guys. And what's interesting is the convergence of technology and the convergence of culture. So with football, you're attracting music, you're attracting gaming, you're attracting fashion, all these things into one space around sports, and football is a really big kind of motivator, for that. Now, in terms of the product idea that you have and where you want to go with that, yeah, it's a bit of a task because you need that physical space, but 100%, in my opinion, read the fine print, but in my opinion, you're taking something and kind of making it a little bit more interesting. You can do it virtual, like Retzel do with I forget the name of the product now, but look at RE.
Player 22. Player 22.
Yeah, Player 22. With those guys, I do some really cool stuff. And when I was at QPR, I made some VR experiences for the fans, based on, me knowing the fans and obviously knowing the team, and did some really cool things. But by taking out physical space, I think you're really going to do something interesting, because we're COVID lockdowns and we're coming off all that, and we're used to doing like what we're doing now. We're remote, but the magic sauce is kind of pushing people. The magic key is kind of getting back into physical spaces again, getting people together. Well, I have a cold now, so I'm not, or maybe COVID, so I'm not seeing anybody. But when I'm healthy, I want to get out there, and I want to see people, but I still want to do this cool stuff that you're talking about. And if you can manage the physical space, I think that mix of technology in with physical actions, I'm running, I'm kicking, and again, Retzel do some really, really cool stuff in that space. There's loads of other companies doing some cool stuff as well. But I think there's something, to that, even if you could do it as a bit of a pop-up. There's loads of VR stuff that you can incorporate. The tech is there, so you can have haptic feedback, so stuff that makes you feel impact, on your feet, in your, obviously in the controllers, in the headset, when you like the new PlayStation VR 2 has it built into the headset, so when you head the ball, for instance, you would feel it. All this cool stuff. The tech is there, like ready and waiting now, so you're not looking at 5 years from now or 2 years from now or 10 years from now. You're looking at stuff that's there. So I think it's exciting. I think you got some cool stuff to do.
Cool. Tim, you came off mute because you had some ideas, because we've had the same talks in golf space, haven't we? And somebody came to us on that golf space.
Yeah, I think XR sport, massive area. I think in terms of what you're talking about football, we about 5 years ago we did something similar with Aston Villa. It was the old manager there, the old owners, a Chinese guy called Tony Zier came in and commissioned us to build 4 VR experiences using HTC Vive. So one was exactly what you described. It was a video academy at a place called Bodymore Heath up in Sutton Coldfield. And this was young players. Apparently to be a pro in football, like I'm sure Bart is, you've got to kick a ball 1 million times or something like that, they say. And so a lot of it's repetitive. It's doing the same thing. And they wanted to train kids and test them. And we did exactly what you described. We inverted the HTC sensors, put them on your shins through a slightly adopted version of shin pads. We created a 3D training ground. We built it all in Unity, made it as realistic as we possibly could. You've got sensors on the head, you've got sensors around. You actually, they used it to teach their players, and actually it was all VR based. We actually projected the image onto a big screen as well, so you could see what people were doing. But it was great fun, and they used that. We were looking at selling it to other football clubs. The problem was, for someone like us, the market. How many football clubs were there at the time? We took it to Barcelona. We thought, why don't we start at the very top and work our way down? So we did get into Barcelona and presented it, and then one of their top players came on. I don't know who it was, and he tried to do this massive scissor kick where he puts his legs in the air. And of course, we hadn't quite built it to cope with all this what was thrown at it. But so we didn't get it into Barcelona. But the tech was there. But the second thing I would say is, as well as doing a VR experience, teach for training and making it fun, the owner at the time had put planning permission into Birmingham to do exactly what you're talking about. He wanted to create a network of domes. The idea being it's a combination of a bit like a bowling alley, but instead of putting your bowling ball down, you'd have it slightly wider. There'd be a virtual screen at the end, which is a goal, and you'd get kids' parties who would come in there and they'd practice playing, taking different shots at goal. And it was going to be a combination of interactive tech and a real ball and a real environment. And it was each one of those centres was going to cost $5 million, and they literally got land. They got land to put it in Birmingham. So the ideas are there. I think it's just, I think what happened with Aston Villa is that they didn't get promoted back quick enough, and then the money quickly dried up, as it does in football. So they didn't. They're probably doing quite well now. Maybe we ought to go back and try them again, but at the time they didn't. So definitely your ideas are right. Football is a prime. Because why it's the right demographic is it's young men, it's young people. I was going to say mainly boys, but actually women are doing as much now as the boys. So it's pretty much very engaging. You've got the right demographic. I think you could do a great experience with VR. So I've droned on a lot there, but I'm agreeing with you. I think it's a great idea. You should pursue it.
BD, can I, on the back of Tim, can I say for Birmingham, because you're saying you're not in Birmingham, I'm not either. I'm based in London. But I know from my understanding and the engagements I've had there, like Birmingham, I think is a great place to try to do things that require physical space. Whereas London, you'll put it in a postage stamp and it'll cost you 20 million just to have that space. So BD, maybe that's something you can comment on in terms of the physical space opportunity to do something like that.
Yeah, I think we're going to get into that. I'll put it over to Javier, but then we'll come back to that because Jim Shefton's on the call. And I wanted to bring him in for a second because he's Hado UK or Hado UK, and that space. I think if you're going virtual of that, you're going to want partners and people that also need the space or be able to work along with you. Jim, I'll bring you on in a second, but Javier, if you just kind of give your thoughts around what Vikas was saying, and then I'll point over to Jim because I want him to talk a little bit about Hado because it's a cool.
Yeah, for me, it's exactly as Michael and Tim are saying. Fully agree. Extended reality sports are a big thing. They are going to only become bigger. And I was watching the other day a documentary about how XR sports prevent repetitive injury as well. So some of the football clubs are starting to use VR to teach kids how to headbutt the ball, because apparently that prevents concussions as well. So, there is a lot of applications in here, not just, for fun as well, but also for health issues, implications in here, which is a pretty good angle as well to explore on this.
Perfect. It's really good. Jim, do you want to, we'll put you on, but talk a little bit about what you guys are trying to do and what's happening with you and Hado in the UK?
Okay. Hi guys. See, I know obviously BD knows a bit about Hado and what we're doing, but I'm going to make the assumption that it's not something that most of you have come across before, because we've still got a relatively small footprint in the UK. So Hado was created in Tokyo about 6 years ago. It's now played competitively in 30 countries worldwide, and it is what's referred to as a techno sport. So it merges physical sports and esports through augmented reality. So it's a very high intensity physical sport in the way it's played. Match only lasts 80 seconds. We expect competitors to shift well over 100 meters during that time. However, because we've got the augmented reality aspect to it, and therefore this sort of esports heritage, it's a sport that exists without age or gender categories. And we've also had a number of tournaments now successfully run with integrated teams, so mixed able-bodied and wheelchair users on the same teams. And it's got that fantastic element that comes in from esports. So players have, it's on the picture behind me there, 4 markers and 4 triangles in a circle shape that hang in front of them within your augmented reality, which are their life points. And you throw your arm forward to throw an energy blast across the pitch. So it's got some sort of similarities to sort of dodgeball play in that aspect. Except here, you've got to take out all 4 of those markers to get a player out of the game. And when they're out, they're only out for 3 seconds. You can also raise energy shields in the air in front of you. You can vary how fast the shots travel, how often you can fire, how many defensive shields you can raise, and so on. But to be good at one thing, you've got to be worse at something else. So therefore, you get a lot or huge amounts of team tactics in terms of the choices that are made and the strategies that teams are working on. From our perspective in the UK, it goes to UK Championships through to European Championships and World Cup, with sort of growing prize pools at each level. And we're waiting on final sign-off on it, but that in Somnia, the NEC in Easter, we should be launching the ESL Premiership.
Awesome.
Which will take into obviously a much bigger audience within the UK. I know we've already got teams from Warwick University's esports team of part of that, as are our various franchises across the UK, which include RAF Halton, because the RAF esports played sport Hado as well. They'll have teams in there too. I think we've got BCU from their esports degree. I've got a team that's going to be entering as well, so it should be quite a nice spread. We're hoping by then as well to also be able to add Barnsley College, Newcastle, so in Newcastle, the esports side of Newcastle United, and a few others to the list in time for the tournament.
That's really good. And you're in one of your main challenges is finding venues, because it needs a sizable venue, but a regular, repeatable venue. So the reason I wanted to bring you on is if Vic is starting to do things like that, it's always good to have complementary things,
Absolutely.
kind of off time. So I wanted to make sure.
I mean, we're at the moment talking a lot with zero latency, because a lot of their venues, because of the amount of space they need, they end up with venues by default with venues that are bigger than they need, because it's the only way to get the minimum space that they require for the warehouse scale VR stuff, which means they've got additional space available. And so we're looking at Haddo venues potentially going with them at their different locations, which is one option for us going forward. But obviously we're much more, I suppose, geared towards the sports side of it rather than the gaming experience side. So looking for either sort of standalone venues that can be run a sports element, or have got that sport and competitive element to the mix of I suppose activities and businesses that are in that location.
So as long as everybody's okay with all this stuff, we'll share people's contact details after this. So if anybody can think of venues, people that are excited about that, then I just saw that Nick Ferrari just put in the chat that Las Vegas would be. I'm sure Jim's on a plane right now.
Well, as it happens, I'm working as an advisor with Haddo US. There's guys out there who've got the exclusive license for the whole of the US, and if someone has got a Vegas location in mind, then I'm quite happy to put you in touch.
Very cool. Michael, you wanted to come in.
No, I just was I'm a fan. I didn't realize that, Jim, that you're gonna be on the call or anybody repping Haddo, because I've been keeping up with it. I'd love to see. I'm gonna look at it a bit more and see what you guys are doing here. I didn't realize you'd expect. I knew about it back in the Tokyo days, but I didn't realize you were here.
Yeah,
so.
We've got a venue just south of Birmingham and the village called Horse Common. We're currently fitting out what will be a 3-court main tournament venue in Coventry. We're going to look at opening another half dozen of our own locations around the Midlands area. We've got various conversations having with people in Birmingham about becoming venues with us, and quite a few dotted up and down the country to go with that.
Very cool. Very cool.
Thanks for coming in there, Tim. So Ben or Chris or Nick or even David, any other questions from you guys around this before we move into the kind of the boring stuff, which is kind of governance and ideas around policing and making sure we're doing the things. Ben, do you have a question or comment?
It's more of a query more than anything. So I'll sort of explain what I've been doing. For the last 4 or 5 years, I've been working towards using virtual reality to help the elderly within care homes. So I'm originally like a 360 creator. I started with photography, videography, and I've now started sort of creating my own virtual field trips for elderly people with the aim of improving mental health and well-being. Registered as a non-profit community interest company in the UK. We did a trial last summer with a local hospice. It went fantastic. We saw a reduction in depression, anxiety, loneliness. It went phenomenally well. My issue is now I've got 6 videos that are ready. I need 6 more for me to have 12, which I think is probably where I want my baseline product to be. And I need the app development. I've already sorted the app development. My issue is finding the money to actually get it going. Because it's a non-profit, a lot of places are a little bit hesitant to touch it. So have you got any sort of pointers in regards to the ways I can generate the capital to get it properly moving? Because ultimately, even though it was a small scale trial, like what the method I'm using seems to work really well. And it's just like, I'm really struggling to actually get the money to get it going.
So for the first port of call will be over to, Tim can come in here, but this is what David's on the call for, is starting to have that thought process.
Yeah, Ben, so drop me an email. I'll put my email into the chat for you. Please just drop me an email. I will connect you with one of our specialists who specialize in community interest companies and actually funding and finance around that. So there will be an answer somewhere, I'm sure. So yeah, more than happy to connect you with the guy's name is Simon Veazey, and he's a real expert. So yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you, David.
You're welcome.
And Ben, on that, remember it's a kick, but it doesn't mean you can't have profits. You just can't take them outside of the thing. So that's the thing that people get really confused at whenever they're trying to raise finance is kick doesn't mean you don't want to be profitable. It just means that you recycle the profits, right?
Yeah.
So when you say charity or community interest company, it starts to scare people because it says, "Oh, that's not our company," but it actually is. So that's and so Tim, over to you because you help people too with that space.
Yeah,
and Mr. Easy too.
I mean, I think David's spot on. I would definitely start going down the route of funding if there are funding for social enterprise. I think a couple of things spring to mind there, but I think it's great what you're doing. And I think it's innovative. And I wonder if there's any innovation funding, any grant funding we could look at. You know, I know grants are very geographical. It depends a little bit about where you are. Some of the universities are running innovation-based R&D grants, depending on whereabouts are you, Ben? Are you, which city are you in?
I'm based just outside of Stafford.
Stafford, okay. So that wouldn't be Birmingham LEP, would it? That would be Staffordshire.
Yeah.
I think it's transitional area. I think you come under both actually.
Oh, okay.
So you probably come under Greater Birmingham and Stoke and Staffs, but Stoke and Staffs also have innovation funding as well available. And again, I'll connect with you, Ben, and I'll point you in the right direction for that as well. All right.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Perfect. I'll do that.
Can I say too, just quickly, Ben, if you're doing this, maybe kind of angling it as the metaverse you're doing it for people who can't, is it specifically for the elderly? Or
at the moment, I want to focus on care homes and hospices, but you know, the potential use case is massive. I just kind of want to focus on one group first. And then once I've got that sort of turning over enough cash, then we can sort of expand it into other areas.
I think the wording could be interesting, you know, without going too far overboard, but, you know, kind of bringing the metaverse to, you know, to the care homes or bringing the metaverse to, you know, to the aged. You know, it's kind of a nice marketing spin that might help give you some extra momentum as well.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you.
Really good. Anybody else? Nick, do you want to come in on something? I know Nick is in the States, but he wanted to make sure he showed up here and saw what we were doing. So questions or comments from you, Nick?
Yeah, Ben, I actually, so when I first got started with like immersive technologies, I created a company called Emerge Studios, and we work directly with nonprofits, helping them use VR to generate funds and tell their story. And a lot of the nonprofits didn't have the budgets to fund a VR project. So a lot of the times we'd go to like an enterprise business that had a CSR initiative that aligned to that nonprofit, or an enterprise business that was already donating to that nonprofit. And what we did was we created a piece of content and then we gave it to the enterprise so that they could use it to connect with their audience in a totally different way while advocating for that cause. So happy to kind of connect with you on some creative stuff there and see if there's any way that that can help what you're doing.
Who's talking, by the way? I can't actually see.
It's Nick Ferrari. It's a buddy from the States. So,
okay, brilliant.
But the radio presenter.
Yeah, he's very good. Nick Ferrari, radio presenter. Yeah.
Thank you.
Very good. There's Nick. But overall, so it's really that aspect of just doing it in a different way. So coming back to kind of not as much the brighter side, because we've talked a lot about the business side. So one or two thoughts from each of the panel on the governance and what you'd like to see. If you had one or two laws that had to be put into place around Metaverse or an ethos, we'll start off with you, Javier, because I know you don't even have WhatsApp on your phone because you don't like to share data. But so I know you're not wearing your tinfoil hat today. But what are one or two of your laws or ethoses that you'd like to see sat out in the metaverse?
One of the main ones is against harassment, which they are starting to take place nowadays. Ella, who is our innovation and purpose manager, put a picture on LinkedIn and it went viral because people apparently are doing sexual harassment on the metaverse, which is crazy. So I think that is a main thing that we need to prevent. all the harassment, whether it's sexual or mental or whatever, that needs to be stopped. And another one is about data protection as well, because at the moment this a bit the wild west. We don't know in some platforms where the data is going to go, so there needs to be privacy controls as well, which I think is crucial for all this experience to be successful.
Perfect. Okay, Michael, over to you.
Yeah, pretty much echo what Javier said. Another one too, because when you have Metaverse, you're typically going to have blockchain underneath that, and then on top of, so you have blockchain with all the NFTs, with all the, the distributed ledgers, all this kind of cool stuff. And then Metaverse is ideally going to sit on top of that. And this is all what's helping to spin out Web3. So with blockchain, it's hard to, the whole idea is it's decentralized. So it's anonymous. You don't know who's got what, people can transact and you just have an ID. You don't know who that belongs to, which is great, because it keeps it, it protects your ID, protects your data. But then there's issues in terms of protocols and things that need to be done. I know one of the big issues that the government's looking at is AML, or like anti-money laundering. So this is a big problem. I won't say a problem, but this is a big deal because there's no accountability. You don't know who's got what. You don't know when people are taking dirty money and then running it through, whether you want to call it Metaverse or blockchain, to try to launder that and clean that up. So this is one of the things. Also being able to verify age, and have some of these measures in place where hey, right now I think you have to be 18 to open up a crypto wallet, for instance. But if we're starting to bring gaming in, like the company I'm working with, where it genuinely is a fun game, then more and more we're going to be catering. People will be catering to younger audiences. So if you come in as a young audience member and you go onto a game and it's fine, it's kid friendly, you're playing it, but then there's an asset that can be used in the game. But remember what I was saying, those assets can also be used off platform potentially. You want to protect from saying, hey, I'm getting this cool, gun that's enchanted by, by some company who's done a brand deal, like a gambling company, and then take that gambling, asset or gambling oriented game asset, making sure that those kids can't take that then into a space that they're not supposed to be in. So these are some of the things that we really need to start thinking about.
Yeah, it makes it very, very challenging, very Ready Player One. Over to you, Tim.
Yeah, I agree. Everybody said, as I'm sure a lot of us do. I look back to why Second Life failed, and it failed because it became full of pornography, and that's the big problem. People, big brands, then don't want to associate their brand in a platform where users, young kids are going to go on and going to see gambling and pornography and bad language. And it's easier said than done. I know. You look at these social media platforms. Every day, they're trying to manage them and try and keep out hate and keep out everything that's bad about them. It's going to be an ongoing challenge, but it's something maybe if we build it in from the beginning, we can try and do more rather than trying to leave this 2-3 years and then it's too late. So my thing was just look back and see why one of the fundamental problems we had with Second Life. And it was when I speak to a university vice chancellor about this, who was going to spend £150,000 on a Second Life environment for that university, and they pulled out just because when they went on, I think the vice chancellor herself was propositioned by some pornography site straight away, and it's like, let's get rid of this. So it'll die really quickly if we don't do that, and if the companies. But let's hope we've learned the lessons from the past there, and we can try and manage that in a better way. But yeah, it's going to be such a big area, there's no question.
Perfect. So just parting thoughts. We'll start off with Michael before I hand it back over to David. Parting thoughts, Michael. Kind of engagement in the metaverse, something to think about, something you would do today. Then I'll go to Javier, then I'll go to Tim, then we'll hand it over to David to kind of close us down.
Well, prime example that Miles was speaking on, in terms of how do I get involved, how do I do this, how do I, kind of see what I can do, and other people are thinking the same. Try again. This is one of the spaces that, we're here on this panel, pretty deeply involved. Like Vikas was saying, I'm doing some stuff, or have done some stuff in the past with Sony and Man City and all this really cool stuff. But even the guys at the top up there where I've worked before are still trying to figure out, what do we do? How do we do this? You know, what's the direction to go in? So the best way as a small, medium-sized business is get involved, try, you know, get a headset, for instance. By the way, headsets don't equate metaverse, but it is one of the things you can use to get in the metaverse. And it's one of the things that people are kind of pushing together as metaverse experience. Get a headset, you know, $299 brand new, probably 150, 200 pounds secondhand for an Oculus Quest if you want to do that. Play around, throw yourself in the mix, you know, and I think don't be afraid to fail. And as a business, don't be afraid to take chances, you know, with whether it's a type of product or type of marketing, because look at 3D TV, then, you know, that didn't come out to what we thought it would be, but it led and helped nurture the whole idea of, I want to be immersed, I want to feel like I'm there. That kind of helped lead to VR. So, and now VR, which people said was dead, is actually not dead. It's just the bubble popped, and now we're doing cool stuff with it, with Metaverse and everything else. So just get out there, you know, try what you can. Don't be afraid to put your stuff and reach out to the big companies as well. And don't be afraid to try your own ideas, because we don't have all the answers either.
Perfect. Thank you. Javier, your turn.
Yeah, pretty much like Michael says, give it a try, even if it's on PlayStation or Xbox or whatever. Have a go at it. It's very good fun. You will be surprised. And yeah, just explore, enjoy, try new things, and keep going with it.
Cool. Jim, if you're still on, if you want to put your website on there so that people can actually go try Hado and jump around and get smashed around down south, that would be good. Tim, over to you. Closing.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, there's two elements to the metaverse to me. There's the fun element of it, and you know, that could be esports, that could be looking at engaging and using it as a social platform for good, and chatting with friends and coming up with all these wonderful things we could do. So I think that there's an element of let's use it and just see how we get on for fun. Then there's my commercial head on, thinking, well, where can you make money out of this metaverse? Where can I make money as a business, or you make money as a company, or my clients makes money out of this platform? And I think with any business, if you're looking at that, we've got to just sit back and do a little bit of research. We've got to look at where, you know, I was looking at some platforms recently because I know a client that wanted to build something. I mean, you don't need to build it. It exists. You can license what's already there really cheaply. So there might be ways you can dip in, we can get stuff that's already there. You can try stuff, you can build stuff, but also, you know, how are you going to think about it? Not because you want to do it because it's technology. You want to do it because the technology is enabling you to do something that's going to make money. And is it the right platform to do that? So a lot more research there, but why not? You know, I'm a real advocate of VR and AR and tech generally. I think, you know, it's become far more user friendly. The door is opening now on XR, AR, VR. Big corporates are getting involved, putting billions of pounds onto the marketplace. It's fun, it's engaging. Why not? You know, it'd be good to be part of a growth sector at this time and see where the opportunity takes us. And I think it can be something we can do without spending a lot of money. So it's even better. So let's go for it.
And we find, I mean, Michael and I play Population 1 on the Quest and other video games. It's a different group of people that are in. It's a very potentially a welcoming community. I mean, there's a bunch of squeakers in VR chat, so you can get in some rooms where you can't even hear yourself think. But in general, you get people that are typically courteous. They'll answer questions. They'll engage with you. They'll be more open, and you can test out your theories. And because they'll be open to it because they're already in the same space that you are, so they want to expand it. David, I'm going to hand it over to you just to kind of close out, and then we'll hang around for a little bit if anybody has any other questions. But we'll share information with everybody afterwards for the people that have been on the call, and so you could all kind of keep connected.
Brilliant, thank you. I just want to say a huge thanks to all of our speakers who've been absolutely inspirational, and I think that you've been great at illustrating just how exciting and accessible this particular sphere now is. And I think it is about sparking the imaginations of those businesses, which I hope we've done for you, Ben and Miles, as well. And thank you both very much for sharing you know, your particular situations. That's been really insightful, really useful illustrations. The one thing I would say again is Growth Hubs exist to support you. They're a free to access service. we will try and help you progress any of the kind of business ideas that you have, or connect you to people that can actually support and help you, including access to finance and all kinds of things like that. My contact details are in the chat function. Please feel free to drop me an email. If I can't help you, I always know someone who can. So I will make sure that you are looked after and sorted. But a brilliant event this afternoon. Thank you so much for your time. I found it particularly inspiring and very, very useful for me. So brilliant. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, David. And thank you to GBSLEP Growth Hub. So the way you can say thank you, one is to talk to our speakers, our presenters, engage them. You can engage them through David. And the other way you could say thank you to anybody else that's been here is to contact or get your friends or anybody else that's in Birmingham in the greater Solihull area to talk to David, and he'll put you in touch. So it's essentially, I call myself the lazy overachiever, because I don't like to work that hard, but I like to have lots of friends around me that are smarter than me, so I can make lots of money doing less stuff. So David will put you in touch with the right people and your friends in touch, because if you have people supplying you that can get it to you for cheaper because they've got better business, makes your business better. If you can make your clients richer and smarter because you've helped them out and they have more money, and they could buy more stuff from you. So if you have cheaper supply and more people buying more stuff from you, you have a better business. So make sure that you're using the contacts that you've made here, the information that you've made here, and the connections to take yourself forward. So thank you to BCU, the GBSLEP Growth Hub, to Michael, to Tim, and to Javier for coming out today. And thank you guys for spending your time, and hopefully you found it beneficial. So, and thanks, Nick. I know we're not going to get you to move to Birmingham, but thanks for tuning in from over in the States too. So thank you, everybody. Enjoy your day.
Take care.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, guys.
Bye all.
Yeah, bye-bye.